Trash belongs with trash, my father announced it into the microphone, dangling the old yellowed passbook my grandfather had just secretly handed me. He didn't just mock it. He held it up like a trophy for the entire wedding reception to see, then dropped the book straight into a bucket of melting ice and champagne. As the crowd of 300 guests roared with laughter, I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I plunged my hand into the freezing water, ruined my $8,000 wedding dress to save those wet pages, and walked out without looking back. My new husband, Luke, didn't hesitate. He grabbed my hand and we ran. What I didn't know then, what my father Richard couldn't possibly know, was that the trash he'd just humiliated me with in front of Boston's elite was worth $12, $4 million, and I was about to use every penny of it to destroy him. 3 days later, I walked into First National Bank in downtown Boston. The lobby was all marble and hushed whispers, a stark contrast to the chaos I had left behind in Newport. I held the passbook in a plastic Ziploc bag. The pages were crinkled and stained with champagne residue, looking exactly like the trash my father said it was. I'm Alyssa, and at 29, I've spent my life making myself invisible. As a trauma nurse, I'm good at it. I know how to fade into the background while doctors scream and patients bleed. I know how to hold secrets, but standing there in my thrifted coat, waiting for the young teller to stop typing, I felt exposed. I need to check the balance on this, I said, sliding the bag across the polished counter. It was a gift. The teller, a girl no older than 20, picked it up with 2 fingers, her nose wrinkling slightly. She typed in the account number, probably expecting an error message or a balance of 0. Then she stopped. Her fingers hovered over the keys. She blinked, leaned closer to the screen, and the color drained from her face. "Ma'am," she whispered, her voice trembling, "please wait here. Do not leave." She didn't press a silent alarm, but she might as well have. Within seconds, the branch manager and a man in a bespoke suit, the regional director, were rushing toward me. They didn't look at my cheap coat. They looked at me like I was royalty in exile. "Miss Mercer," the director said, ushering me toward a heavy steel door in the back. "Please, we've been waiting for this account to be claimed for a very long time." They led me into a private viewing room that smelled of old paper and dust. As they went to retrieve the file, I sat in the leather chair and closed my eyes. And suddenly, I wasn't in a bank vault. I was 12 years old again, kneeling on the hardwood floor of my father's study. Richard sat in his armchair, swirling a glass of scotch, watching me. He had spilled it on purpose. I knew he had. But the rule was simple. Girls clean. Boys conquer. Hunter, my brother, was on the sofa, laughing at a video game, his feet propped up on the table I had just polished. "You missed a spot, Alyssa," Richard said softly. He didn't yell. He preferred an audience for his cruelty. He liked to see the light go out in my eyes. It was his theater. When Grandpa Samuel tried to help me up, Richard's voice turned into a whip. "Touch that rag, old man, and I'll put you in a state home so fast you won't even have time to pack your pills." I scrubbed until my knuckles bled that day. I scrubbed because I believed I had no value outside of what I could endure. The heavy clank of the vault door brought me back. I opened my eyes. I wasn't that 12-year-old girl anymore. I was the woman holding the match. The director placed a thick file on the table, his hands reverent, like he was handling a religious text. "Your grandfather didn't just open a savings account, Miss Mercer. In 1982, he established a Totten Trust." He paused, letting that sink in. He was an early investor in Apple and Microsoft. He funneled every dividend back into the portfolio, untouched for 40 years. He turned the document toward me. "The current value of the trust legally payable to you upon his death is $12,400,000. The number sat there on the page, black and absolute. $12,400,000. I stared at it. I thought about the champagne bucket. I thought about Richard laughing into the microphone, calling this fortune trash. He had held $12 million in his hand and thrown it away because he was too arrogant to look inside the cover. Is there anyone else listed on the account? I asked, my voice calm. Clinical. No, the director said. Just you. It's entirely yours. I touched the dried, ruined passbook. It wasn't just money. It was a weapon, and for the first time in my life, I knew exactly where to aim it. My husband Luke didn't look up when I walked through the door of our small apartment. He was hunched over his laptop at the kitchen island, surrounded by a fortress of printed spreadsheets. The air felt electric, charged with the static of something about to break. Luke isn't just a data analyst. He's a forensic architect of secrets. He finds the cracks in the foundation that nobody else sees. The kind of person who can trace money through 6 shell companies and 3 countries before breakfast. It's not an empire, Alyssa, he said, finally turning the screen toward me. His voice was flat, devoid of emotion. It's a Ponzi scheme built on bridge loans and ego. I looked at the monitor. I expected to see wealth. I expected to see the millions Richard bragged about at every charity gala and family dinner. Instead, I saw red numbers bleeding into debt. Assets leveraged 3, 4, 5 times over. A house of cards held together with duct tape and delusion. He's insolvent, Luke said, tapping a document. The mansion in Newport? Foreclosure proceedings started 3 weeks ago. The family trust he claims to manage? It's empty. He's been moving the same $50,000 between 6 different shell accounts to make it look like he has liquidity. He pulled up another document. And here's the kicker, he's being audited. The IRS sent him a notice of deficiency last month. Tax fraud going back 20 years. I stared at the numbers, my mind racing. The man who had thrown my grandfather's legacy into a champagne bucket wasn't a titan of industry. He was a drowning man, flailing in a sea of debt, desperately grabbing for anything to keep his head above water. He didn't just want money. He needed it to stay out of federal prison. My phone rang. It was him. I put it on speaker. Luke stopped typing. Alyssa. Richard's voice filled the kitchen. There was no apology, no hesitation, just the brash confidence of a man who believed he still owned the world. I've been thinking about that shack your grandfather left you. The cottage. What about it? I asked. My hand rested on the table to steady the tray, but my voice was ice. I'm going to do you a favor, he said. I've spoken to my real estate attorney. We can liquidate it quickly. I'll handle the sale, get you a fair market price, and invest the proceeds into the family business so you actually get a return. You're a nurse, honey. You don't know the first thing about property taxes or maintenance. I'm trying to save you from a headache. He wanted the cottage. It was the only tangible thing Samuel had left me besides the passbook. It was worth maybe $300,000, peanuts to a billionaire, but a lifeline to a desperate fraudster. I'm not selling debt, I said. The line went silent. Then the mask slipped. You listen to me? He snarled, his voice dropping an octave. That old man was mentally incompetent when he signed that deed. I have witnesses ready to testify that you manipulated a senile geriatric into signing over family assets. If you don't sign that transfer paperwork by Friday, I will sue you for elder abuse. I would drag you through probate court until you're bankrupt. He paused, letting the threat settle. Do you understand me? You're out of your depth, Alyssa. He wasn't protecting me. He was hunting for liquidity, any asset he could seize, sell, and funnel into his black hole of debt. I understand perfectly, I said. Good. I'll have the papers sent over. The line clicked dead. I looked at Luke. He wasn't scared. He was smiling a cold, sharp smile that matched the feeling rising in my chest. Richard thought he was bullying a helpless daughter. He didn't know he had just handed us the blueprint to his own destruction. He was desperate. And desperate men make mistakes. I waited 24 hours before calling him back. Silence is a powerful amplifier. It lets the desperation breed. Luke and I spent that day not in panic, but in preparation. We didn't hire a lawyer to fight the sale of the cottage. We hired a graphic designer to forge a portfolio of investment documents. Pristine, official-looking papers that would pass any cursory inspection. When I finally dialed Richard's number, I put on the performance of my life. I didn't summon the confident woman who had walked out of the bank vault. I summoned the 12-year-old girl terrified of spilling scotch. "Dad," I whispered when he picked up. I let my voice tremble. "I'm sorry." I hung up. I didn't know what to say. "You should be sorry," he snapped. But the edge was duller. He was listening. "It's not just the cottage," I said, pitching my voice to the perfect frequency of naive panic. I went to the bank. The passbook, it wasn't empty. The line went dead silent. I could practically hear him doing the mental calculus, the wheels turning as greed overpowered caution. "How much?" he asked. The greed leaked through the phone like oil. 12 million. I choked out. 12 million. "But Dad, I don't know what to do." The bank manager started talking about capital gains taxes and federal audits, and I think I'm in trouble. If the IRS finds out I have this, they'll take half of it. I don't know how to hide it. It was the perfect bait. I handed him exactly what he believed about me, that I was weak, stupid, and incapable of handling power. And I handed him exactly what he needed, a massive injection of liquidity to cover his own crimes. "Listen to me very carefully, Alyssa," he said. His voice transformed instantly from bully to savior. It was chilling. "Do not sign anything with the bank. Do not talk to any lawyers. You bring that paperwork to me. I can shelter it under the family trust. We can classify it as a pre-existing asset. It's complicated, but I can make the tax liability disappear." He paused, his voice dripping with false warmth. "I'm doing this for you, sweetheart. To protect you." "Protect me?" He wanted to swallow the inheritance whole, to plug the holes in his sinking ship. Can we do it tonight?" I asked, letting my voice crack with urgency. "No," he said too quickly. He needed time to prepare the fake transfer papers, to set the trap he thought he was laying for me. "I have the Man of the Year gala on Saturday in Boston. It's perfect. Bring the documents there. We'll sign everything in the very important person suite before the speeches. I'll announce the expansion of the family fund. It'll look legitimate." He wanted the audience. He wanted the glory of announcing a $12 million windfall as his own business. Genius, his Midas touch turning even his daughter's pathetic inheritance into gold. "Okay," I said. "Thank you, Dad. Thank you for fixing this. That's what fathers are for," he said. I hung up. I looked at Luke. The fear vanished from my face instantly, replaced by something harder, colder. "He took it," I said. Luke nodded, already pulling up the documents we would actually present. Already printing. They looked exactly like the standard transfer forms Richard would expect. Same font, same headers, same official seals. But the fine print wasn't a transfer of funds. It was an affidavit of sole liability, a legal document that would tie Richard retroactively to every shell company, every offshore account, every piece of tax fraud he'd committed for the last 20 years. Richard thought he was reeling in a clueless daughter. He didn't realize he had just invited the executioner to his own party. The Man of the Year charity gala was held in the grand ballroom of the Fairmont Copley Plaza. Crystal chandeliers dripped light onto the shoulders of Boston's elite senators, CEOs, old money families, whose names were carved into the city's foundation. It was a room full of power, and in my father's case, desperate, cloying ambition. I arrived at 7:55 in the evening. I wasn't wearing the beige, sensible clothes Richard preferred me in, the outfits designed to keep me small, forgettable, invisible. I was wearing a structured red dress that cost more than my car. I walked through the crowd, not around it. I saw Hunter near the bar, laughing too loudly, already 3 drinks deep. He didn't see me. He was too busy playing the role of the dauphin to a non-existent kingdom. Richard was at the front of the room, flanked by 2 senators, He looked radiant. It was the glow of a man who thought he had just pulled off the heist of the century. When he saw me approaching, his smile didn't waver, but his eyes narrowed. He excused himself and met me near the stage steps. "You're late," he hissed through his teeth, keeping his smile plastered on for the photographers. "Do you have it?" "I have it," I said. I held out the blue leather presentation folder. He snatched it from my hand, his greed a physical force, vibrating off him like heat. "Is it all there?" he asked, his fingers already opening the cover. "The transfer authorizations, the power of attorney, it's all there, Dad, just like you asked. It puts the entire $12 million under the control of the family trust. You just need to sign as the sole trustee to accept the assets." He opened the folder. He didn't read the clauses. He didn't check the definitions. He didn't even glance at the appendix listing every shell company, every offshore account. He just saw the signature line. A smart man would have asked why the document was titled Affidavit of Historical Management and Sole Liability. A smart man would have wondered why the dates listed went back 20 years, linking him retroactively to every fraudulent transaction. But Richard wasn't smart. He was arrogant. He believed so fully in his own dominance that he couldn't conceive of a world where I was the threat. He pulled a Mont Blanc pen from his pocket. "You did the right thing, Alyssa," he said, scribbling his signature with a flourish. "Done." He handed the folder back to me, dismissive, already turning his attention to the podium. "Go find a seat in the back," he ordered. "I have an announcement to make." He bounded up the stairs to the stage. The room quieted. The spotlight hit him. I didn't retreat to the back. I moved to the side, photographed the signature page with my phone, and hit send. 3 miles away, Luke received it, attached it to the whistleblower complaint we'd finalized days earlier, and uploaded it to the Department of Justice's secure portal. Moments later, Richard took the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced proudly, his voice booming through the sound system. "Tonight, we launch a historic expansion of the Mercer Family Foundation, a $12 million investment in this city's future." He was confessing in real time. In front of 500 witnesses, he claimed ownership of funds I had just tied to 2 decades of tax fraud, money laundering, and offshore accounts. He thought he was unveiling his legacy. He was reading his own Miranda rights. My phone buzzed. Received. IRS confirmation code 99 Alpha. "It's done." Richard was still smiling when the 60-foot LED screen behind him flickered. The foundation logo vanished, replaced by a Department of Justice seal stamped with red letters, Federal Asset Seizure in Progress Case 840-second applause collapsed into silence. Richard turned, confused rather than afraid. His mind was rejecting a reality that didn't match his script. That was his fatal flaw, not ignorance but entitlement. He never believed someone he dismissed as insignificant could build a trap big enough to hold him. The ballroom doors burst open. 6 IRS Criminal Investigation Division agents swept down the aisle, their badges gleaming under the chandeliers. "Richard Mercer," the lead agent ordered. "Step away from the podium." Richard clutched the microphone. "Do you know who I am?" "We do," the agent replied, pulling out handcuffs. "You're the sole trustee who signed an affidavit accepting responsibility for 20 years of unreported offshore accounts, tax evasion, and wire fraud." Richard spun toward me, his face purple with rage. "She tricked me," he screamed. "My daughter, she." "Save it for the grand jury, Mr. Mercer." The handcuffs snapped shut with a sound that echoed through the silent ballroom. Cameras flashed as he was led away, stripped of grandeur, reduced to a man in a rented tux. I thought it was over. It wasn't. The very important person suite door slammed shut behind me. The lock clicked. Hunter stood there, sweating, purple-faced, frantic. He'd followed me from the ballroom. "You ruined everything," he hissed, his voice shaking with rage and desperation. "It was already ruined," I said calmly. "The money never existed, Hunter. It was all debt and lies." He grabbed a serrated steak knife from the catering table. His hand was shaking. This wasn't strategy anymore. It was raw instinct, the moment when the illusion of family collapses and desperation shows its teeth. Luke stepped in front of me. "Open the door, Hunter." Hunter lunged. Luke caught his wrist mid-swing, twisted, and the arm snapped with a sickening crack. The knife skidded across the marble floor, spinning like a deadly compass before clattering against the wall. Hunter dropped to his knees, sobbing not from pain, but from the crushing weight of irrelevance. When agents forced the door open 30 seconds later, my brother was curled on the floor, crying like a child. That was 3 weeks ago. This morning, Newport smells like salt and fresh coffee. I'm sitting on the porch of my cottage. Mine, not the family's, not Richard's. Mine. I fixed the roof, cleared the ivy, painted the shutters, made it a home. Richard was denied bail. His assets are frozen. His empire is being liquidated piece by piece. The mansion in Newport sold at auction last week for pennies on the dollar. Hunter took a plea deal. Assault with a deadly weapon, reduced to simple assault. No inheritance awaits him when he gets out. Only work, real work, for the first time in his privileged life. I burned the affidavit on the porch. I don't need it anymore. The IRS and DOJ already have everything that matters: copies, testimonies, bank records going back 2 decades. This page was just the fear I used to carry. The belief that I was powerless. I watch it curl and blacken in the flames. Luke sits beside me, his laptop closed for once. The trust transfer is complete. It's all yours. What do you want to do with it? I look at the ocean. The waves steady and relentless, wearing down even the hardest stone given enough time. Nothing, I say. Let it grow. I'm still a nurse. Still Alyssa. The money isn't power, it's protection. I learned something important in that bank vault, in that ballroom, in that moment when my brother came at me with a knife. Family isn't blood. Family is who stands with you when the vault opens. Family is who helps you build the trap. Family is who knows your worth when everyone else sees trash. Luke takes my hand. We sit in silence, watching the sun set over the water. And for the first time in 29 years, I am not invisible. I am not afraid. I am free. The end.